Good morning, Surin.
Hi, Margaret. Morning.
Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Of course, yeah, I'd be happy to. My name is Suren Ravindra. I'm co-founder and chief product officer for Nabu. I can talk a little bit about our mission and what we're looking to solve as well. So, one of the problems that we see is African fintechs and bank customer segments are not really served very well in today's climate. They face a lot of problems, and we're on the mission of becoming a clearing bank in order to help alleviate those stresses. We'll get into that more, I think, in our discussion.
And Surin, what I find interesting, so I'll just introduce myself. Margaret O'Connor, I'm chairperson of Launch Africa Venture Fund, which is the single most active seed stage investor in the African continent, having made 67 investments in 14 African companies and deployed $10.9 million in our first year of operation. So we really are at the forefront of technology innovation from Cape to Cairo, across Francophone and North Africa as well. And having presided over many of these investments, Nabu to me represents, one of the most mature and sophisticated management teams that we've seen, bringing a lot of different domain expertise and tremendous innovative thinking about the future of regulation, the future of crypto, the future of digital financial services, all within a regulated financial institution that grown-up telcos and banks can relate to and respect. So I'm really glad that we have the opportunity today to kind of unpack both what you're doing today with Threshold, offering, products that fintechs need, and creating the clearing bank of the future, specifically focused on the African market.
Yeah, I mean, thank you very much for the kind words. I'd love to help sort of unpack what we're trying to do here. So yeah.
Yep. So let's do that. So we started out thinking about, the evolution of digital financial services in Africa. And of course, M-Pesa is, a global brand now as made in Africa innovation that was extremely relevant to consumers and SMEs in East Africa. And that really galvanized the need for more investment and innovation using the cell phones that everyone carries, rich and poor, urban and rural customers. So we can just talk about a little bit about kind of the evolution from mobile financial services into crypto, into the next generation of digital financial services, and how you as Nabu helped to support that market innovation and evolution.
Yes, of course. So one of the things that we see is fintechs are exploding, and we've seen this since the 2000s when the mobile money wave came into action in countries like Kenya and Ghana. And just to sort of highlight, get into a little bit of detail around the mission. One of the problems today is that fintechs and that customer segment, they face problems such as extortionate fees, or they're unfairly deemed high risk, and they also have to face the problem of sudden bank account closure. Now, what this means is it takes away their ability to focus on building and growing and scaling their products and services. Now, we're a fintech, so we understand what these problems are like, but also we are aiming to be a clearing bank because we want to help alleviate this problem, to help all these fintechs that are working on building this ecosystem. So as I said, today, fintechs are exploding, they're raising more money, and they're seeing a lot more transaction volume. With regards to Africa, we know the potential of Africa. It's an exploding territory. We know the fintech growth there. I just returned from a trip to Kenya, which is well known for M-Pesa. The mobile money wave there from the 2000s helped a lot of the population who didn't have access to banking or live near banks to access financial services. I think today across sub-Saharan Africa, 400 million use mobile money, and this is only predicted to climb. So we know that when a new wave of technology comes, Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, these countries are very quick to adopt it because we've seen it with the previous wave. If we talk a little bit about Ghana, mobile money in 2009, I think 70% of the population at that time was unbanked. But today, transactions via mobile money or mobile wallets represent about 82% of GDP. And in Kenya, that's 87% of GDP, the transaction volume there. So we know that these waves are only climbing. So, you know, in terms of back to the mission a little, the problem of fintechs not being served well is most pronounced in Africa, but it is actually a universal problem. So I'm responsible for sales at Threshold, which is one of our auxiliary services for NABU. We provide a crypto asset treasury management platform for fintechs using crypto assets. And I know, I'm developing our Indian customer base, and the problem also exists there. So we're in the digital asset space. We see the impact of new waves of value transfer, new technology. It's no surprise these regions are seeing such a large interest in space. And what we're a hybrid trying to get best of both worlds. So an exploding fintech, also aiming to have the benefits of banking. So I think hopefully that paints a bit of a clearer picture as to what we're doing.
And certainly it'd be interesting to hear your assessment of the relative sophistication of your African fintech customer base. Do you see a different level of readiness to adopt NABU's products and services in different geographies? Or is it, although everyone recognizes Africa is many different markets, a fairly uniform range of sophistication in your customer base?
So, I mean, what I would say is we have customers in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Kenya, and so there are certain things which affect those companies' abilities to grow. And these are really important discussions which have to be had. And one of the most key things is the regulatory environment. As you rightly said, it's a very complex continent. There are 50 or so countries with different regulatory interests. In our mission, we can see, if you look globally, in the UK or in Singapore, governments have provided sandboxes specifically for digital disruption. Now, this helps pioneering fintechs to really grow and bring better services to the digital disruption ecosystem that they're helping to build. We have customers in Africa, and the impact of the regulatory action there is clear. So we do have sorry, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to make an observation to kind of reinforce what I said at the opening about the sophistication of the NABU team and the responsibility that you're demonstrating to the UK FCA as well as to the regulators in the markets that you serve across Africa. And as a former MasterCard exec who built up the business in China and Africa, having to work very closely with regulators for most of my 30-year career, it's balancing the innovation and need to move for speed in unregulated product sets like crypto, and maintaining a dialogue and a spirit of collaboration with the people who set the rules. And we're seeing in the US with the SEC, right, a growing appetite for regulation in crypto. So, I think you're in a really important juncture, sitting in London, serving emerging markets, but also being equally connected to developed markets.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think, we can see, if we take the CBN in Nigeria as an example, it's a great example of how we have to work with the regulators to help them understand the new technology, to help them understand what's happening. A regulator who is able to provide favorable conditions for fintechs can really assist the explosion of the ecosystem in that country. And there are certain countries which are I guess more friendly towards new disruption technologies. But as I said, it is an incredibly complex environment. So in South Africa, for example, towards the crypto space, we know that, and you may say it may be a result of some of the previous problems that we've seen in certain spaces, but the regulator there is really aiming to bring out regulation to help fintechs remove uncertainty. And the biggest, when you're building a startup, the biggest problem that you may see is uncertainty. So we've spoken to fintechs in South Africa in the crypto specific space, and they're assisting the regulator to remove the uncertainty, to remove those barriers so that they can focus on growing and scaling and delivering sort of the best quality products at the lowest price to consumers. So yeah, the impact of regulation is incredibly important. We can only work with them to bring it forward.
And you bring up such an important point about price, both consumer pricing and pricing for enterprises, and thinking more deeply about what are the appropriate price points for different African markets for the range of products and services that NABU has today and tomorrow. So can you maybe kind of talk about how you address the pricing challenge to ensure that the people who need your products and services can affordably access them?
Yeah, so I mean, we've noticed that certainly, the price sensitivity is a real important point when we're deciding sort of how to price products for different regions. For example, if there are low barriers to entry and everybody is innovating around a particular problem, then you see a lot of entrants in the market. But what that means is it's a race to the bottom in terms of fees. So we can't come along and say, hey, we're going to charge this much, because then it just wouldn't help the ecosystem grow. So we have to be very careful and understand the challenges of our customers. We have to understand what they're up against in terms of their own markets and the other global markets that they're also playing against. So we have exchanges who use our service threshold to help manage their crypto transactions. It's a completely self-custodial service, but the key element is with regards to price, we have to understand and be aware that they are price sensitive. They are up against a lot of competition. And as I said before, the countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, they're very quick to adopt crypto. There's a big adoption rate there. And we've seen this before with the mobile money wave. So we know that these are exploding countries with exploding fintech ecosystems. The pricing is what we can provide favorable pricing to assist them in this growth.
So what I'm hearing today, as I have in previous conversations with NABU, is a real sense of collaboration with your customers and ensuring, their commercial sustainability and their end user satisfaction is helping to build, a very positive innovation and collaboration community that you're underpinning.
Yes, I mean, that's one of our key aims, by ensuring that fintechs are served well, and also by ensuring that the regulation to aid fintech's growth is done correctly and properly. What this means is those companies can build good products for their end users. And if we think about this for a second, interoperability in emerging markets means that people can send money to each other regardless of which mobile money service they're using. But what this means is more competition, lower prices for the end user, and higher quality products. It forces companies to compete and bring out the best. So if we can assist our customers with low prices, and they can free up more of their resources, which is what Threshold allows them to do, then they can really focus on getting the end consumer, which is the person buying or selling, let's say, a digital asset, in our example. They can get a really good quality product to that person, and that person has access to a suite of different crypto lending products, for example, crypto savings products. So we really see it as a full chain, and our work here will build the ecosystem up in those countries. So yeah, it definitely is a collaboration with our customers.
And Suren, can you speak to peace of mind and security? So thinking about end users and moving beyond the early adopters to more mainstream consumers, how does NABU and Threshold play into ensuring security and peace of mind for retail customers?
Yeah, of course. So for a retail customer, we've seen in the past hacks and thefts and scams in the crypto space. I think since inception, it was $11 billion or so has been lost to criminal activity. Now, that was because fundamentally the security ecosystem took a while to develop, but today we've come so far from where we were, a decade ago. So from our perspective, Threshold, from a security perspective, we don't use any private keys. We have a keyless wallet system. What this means is the exchanges don't have to worry about private key risk because there is another technology which underpins, and that's called MPC. Secondly, from the perspective of the exchange, they can then say, okay, we have security at the forefront of our offering. It's a very important thing to us, and the consumer feels more comfortable. They have increased peace of mind. Thirdly, the actual software, the key points of the software is to help cut fees, help save them time, and operate securely as well. So those key automations actually allow the exchange to free up their resources and to increase the amount of money they have to develop new services. So for example, we have customers who've been working with us for over 18 months now, who have, as a result of the scaling that they've achieved, been able to deploy more assets, more offerings to their end users. And security is definitely a very key proponent of that, key component of that. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely out there as one of the top three important points.
Right, and we were thinking about the digital financial services and the role of the mobile network operators, the Oranges, the Vodacoms, the MTN. They're all getting into the digital banking space and doing some micro loans and other products that have typically been viewed as banking territory. So we're going through a phase of everyone experimenting and innovating and trying to figure out how do we serve the underserved African customers better. And so, do you imagine a future where Threshold may be able to serve some of users through a Voda super app or some of the other, ICT partnership possibilities?
Yeah, I mean, Threshold is a product which helps any company using digital assets to optimize. That's what we do. So if a company is using crypto assets, then they can use Threshold to keep control of their assets while optimizing, specifically with a focus on millions of transactions. So if we take an exchange as an example, they're receiving millions of transactions, they're also sending out millions of transactions. And when you're processing millions of transactions, it actually adds up to a lot of costs. Yeah. To cut that down, they use Threshold, and that's what we do. So any company that uses crypto assets can use us. In the future, if there are these banking players, if they want to play, or mobile money players want to play in the crypto space, they certainly will be able to do it with us. As I said, it's collaboration. It's about building the ecosystem.
So we're just about out of time. Is there a particular story you wanted to close with, or you've gotten what you need to say?
Well, I mean, I think sort of in terms of the only other point to talk about is funding. So we've seen a lot of different increasing funding opportunities in Africa. From sort of recent results, we know Flutterwave raised 170 million, Chipper Cash raised 100 million, and I think yesterday 150 million. We have Time Bank in South Africa raising 100 million. So, we're seeing more influx of funding coming in. But if we put this into context, it's still small compared to other regions in the world. So we want to see more. And the question is, why is this? We're seeing the innovation, we're seeing the growth, and we're seeing the explosion. I think the funding will continue to rise. Certainly the countries that I mentioned, South Africa and Nigeria, they accounted for 28% of the total funds raised in 2021. And 95% of the deals were over $1 million. So it's growing. I think the total was just over 1.2 billion or so, but we want to see more. We will see it, I think, as time goes on. So that's another point.
And on the funding side, I can share with you today, I'm with a bunch of private equity players and incumbent bank investors or corporate venture capital arms from Nigeria, from Egypt, from Ghana, from Morocco and Senegal. All the private equity players are super intrigued by what's happening in the early stage tech space and have a much bigger checkbook to bring to high potential companies that can scale cross-border and deliver more consumer convenience, affordability, and security. So I think the figures for 2022 are only going to go up. So we live in interesting times.
I agree. I think it will be great. And I think that one of the reasons is the mobile money wave. We've seen the explosion. Now the crypto wave explosion is starting, and we can already see that happening. So I completely agree.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for sharing the Nabu and Threshold story. Real pleasure to get to unpack that with you.
Margaret, thank you so much for speaking with me. It's been a real pleasure as well.